Hello, my name is Garrett and welcome to my bench. This is my 5th episode of my monthly series where I go over what's been on my bench for the last month. The first item I finished this month was this custom wedding band that I made for a client. I made this using a stainless steel Damascus that I forged myself. I use a blend of 304 and 316 stainless steel. In the last episode, I had just taken it off of the mill, which means I had the inside diameter turned, the outside diameter turned, and then both faces were just cut square to the body. And the ring was about 1/8 of an inch wider than it is now. Since then, I obviously finished the ring, but I went on the lathe, I cut the ring down to the final width, took a file to cut the outside radius and the inside radius. Once all the lathe work was done, I took it over to the jeweler's bench. There, I did the final fitment and took the ring up to about 1,000 grit polish prior to etching. The etching takes about 2 hours to do, and once the etching is done, I bring it back to the jeweler's bench to polish off the oxides with some Scotch-Brite, and that gives it the final shine as well. I'm very happy with how this ring turned out. I think the patterning is incredible, and the other exciting thing is that I shot my first real process YouTube video with this, so I still am editing it. I think it's going to end up being right around 8 minutes long, but it details every process from the forging to the final etching and polishing. I am very excited to get this YouTube video released, and here is a quick clip to be a trailer for it. Once again, I am very excited to release that video. It was so much fun to shoot, and in the meantime, I cannot wait to get this into the hands of the client. This is a nakiri that I reground this month. A nakiri is a knife that is designed specifically for cutting vegetables, and honestly, it's one of my favorite knives. I actually made this knife at the beginning of the summer, and all I did this month was to regrind the blade. Before, when I made this knife, I thought I was doing the grind correctly, and I had a flat grind that went from the cutting edge to a little under 1 inch up the blade. This is what the knife looked like before I reground it, and obviously this is what it looks like now. So what I've done is I've taken that grind, and it now goes from the cutting edge all the way to the spine of the knife. You can see here what the profile looked like before I reground it, and here what the profile looks like now. There's such a smaller amount of mass behind the cutting edge, and already the cutting feel of this knife is so much better. Before, if I was cutting like vegetables that are not very tall, let's say I was slicing bell peppers or green onions or something like that, the cutting action was phenomenal. However, when I got into something taller like an onion, the blade would start to wedge, which basically means that that thick portion of the spine that was about here would start to get stuck in the onion, and instead of cutting through the onion, it would actually start to tear the onion apart. Now, though, that this blade is thinner, I can slice through onions all day long without any issues. I am very happy with the regrind of this, and this is going to go back in the kitchen for me to continue learning from. This is the whole purpose of this knife for me, is to just use it every day in my cooking and really know how this knife should feel and perform. I already think that when I make the next knife, I will have to go thinner on the blade, but for right now, I'm extremely happy with the modifications I've made to this. Finally, this is a chef's knife that I attempted to grind, however, it did not turn out well. The cutting edge itself is actually done very well. It's exactly how I wanted, but the rest of the blade came out much thicker than I intended. So when I grind a knife, I use a jig. I don't do enough knife grinding to make it worth it to me to learn how to freehand grind. So like I said, every knife I do, I grind with a jig. However, the jig needs to be able to support the blade. Once I ground away the first side and I flipped it over, there was no more supporting material contacting the jig. I didn't realize how much of an issue this would be on a knife this big. When I'm doing a folder, it really doesn't matter. The blade is thick enough and short enough that as long as I'm not pressing too hard, the blade really doesn't flex. However, on a chef's knife, the blade could actually flex quite a bit. And what that did was flex the blade away from the belt, causing the angle of the grind to change. So you can see out here, the blade is still quite thick, all the way down to the cutting edge here, and it's actually twice as thick as I intended it to be. With all those problems, I decided to not try to finish this. I may try to turn it into a shorter kind of utility knife later on, just to not waste most of the steel. But as far as the chef's knife goes, I decided to just go ahead and scrap it. You can also see out here, the blade is actually thinner up here at the spine than it is here in the middle before tapering down to the edge. So like I said, there's just too many issues for me to overcome here. I think I have some ideas on how to grind a really thin blade and still have supporting material, but that'll have to be left for a future knife build. Thank you as always for spending a little bit of time with me, just listening to what I've been working on for the last month. Keep an eye out for that video that's going to be detailing every step of the process for making this wedding band, and I will see you again next month.